Welcome to the 2023 Performance Review. Remember, this is a financial account. We want to encourage people to have their finances in order. And just like, let's say, if your goal was in 2023 to lose weight or to continue on with your education, you have really set defined goals and parameters that you want to measure back with to see how well you actually did the previous year, so you know if you need to make any adjustments for the coming up year. This is Stonewall Financial. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and I really hope we can get this channel rolling and going so that we can help improve the personal finances of many people. Based on a lot of different conversations with everybody, this is an area that's greatly lacking in people's individual lives. So again, any bit where you can continue to like, share, and subscribe can help grow this channel, and it would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, the 2023 Performance Review. So in order to see if you're on track, you needed to actually have goals in the first place. So did you actually have goals in which you wanted to have your 401k be at a certain amount, your Roth IRA be at a certain amount? These kind of things you need to consider as we're changing into the new year if you need to change your distributions to help reflect what your financial goals are. And if you have any questions on what those should be and what they need to be, feel free to reach out to me at Clarity. We'll put a link in the comments below. It's a place where you can get a personalized phone call with me and talk over your finances and see what would be best for you and your family based on your individual circumstances. Everybody's in a different position and place, and so not every plan, it's not a cookie cutter plan. Everyone has different struggles and things that they need to account for in their plan, when they need to retire, or what different expenses are. So feel free to reach out to me. We'll put that in the comments below. Again, it's at Clarity. You can find me there. In order to really see how good of this year or bad this year was, we kind of need to understand a couple things. One, what's been the historical rate of return and what's been the inflation rate normally. So looking back, looking at the numbers, the average historical rate of return since 1957 has been 10.13%. This is according to Investopedia. Overall, pretty much recommend their site. Since 1950, there has only been 19 down years in the market. This amount in which it's gone down has ranged from pretty much up to 40% down to far less. But over those, 73 years now? It's only gone down 19 of those years. The average historical rate of inflation, greatly skewed over these last couple of years, is actually about 3.8%. When you're doing your own personalized figures, or if you reach out to me and have me do your figures, when we're trying to calculate what your real rates of return would be, we kind of need to use that 5 to 7% of return, accounting for inflation. So for this year, the rates of return for the S&P 500 were an astounding 24.73% when looking at the S&P 500. If we look at the Dow Jones Index, it was only a 13.74% increase. And if you look at the NASDAQ Index, which is a lot more tech companies, it's 44.52% increase, which is a huge rate of return. This past year's inflation rate, I was not really able to find a good source for updated December numbers, but for most sources that were published in November and slightly before, looking at the previous year, surprisingly, most of the sites only showed a 3 to 4% inflation rate. Now, going to the grocery store, I don't see that myself. I think it was personally a lot higher, but according to these sites, it only showed a 3 to 4% rate of return, which then equating that back out to, okay, what were these rates of return throughout the year? It still actually showed a pretty good result. Because let's say if the rate of inflation was 15% and the S&P 500 went up, 15%, we got pretty much a good old goose egg on that year, and you kind of just kept up. So with a 3 to 4% inflation rate, with a potential almost 25% rate of return, that still at the end of the day is a pretty good. And if you look back at the charts and you look at them, really the first quarter and the second quarter were really good, and the fourth quarter were good. The third quarter was kind of rough. But besides that, everything was great. Now, My approach is a dollar cost averaging approach, which means that I put in money every week on a certain day, regardless of however the market is doing. So when it was doing great in the first 2 quarters, we were putting in the same amount. When it was doing terrible in the 3rd quarter, we were putting in the same amount. When it was doing fabulous in this 4th quarter, these last couple months, we were putting in the same amount. So with my approach there, out of my 45 holdings, 41 of them went up, 4 of them went down. I am not suggesting you invest or don't invest in these next 2 companies that I state. However, my best performer was Meta, which is formerly known as Facebook, which went up a bit over 150%. My worst performer was that, and I have to watch myself here, I don't want to really call it waxy chocolate, but you know, if you've had Germanic or European chocolate, it's not the greatest, but the good old American Hershey's, that was actually my worst performer of the year. Of my portfolio, about 42% of it is index funds. I transitioned that a lot more heavily in this year, just because if you look at the research and data, there's a couple things here that you need to note. One, typically if you are controlling your own investment portfolio, typically you do better for yourself than if you were to have a money market manager do it for you. You take a lot more invested interest in you performing well than you just being one of another 1,000 up clients. But of course, that would require you to spend more time and effort into managing it. But the bigger part here, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is that at the end of the day, long-term performance, just being the market, being in an index fund, outperforms those who are trying to beat the market consistently. But there's another part here that I need to address before we say goodbye, and that is not every goal is to beat the market. Depending on where you are at in your life and your stage there, you don't want to necessarily have to worry about I talked about how over the last 73 years, there's been 19 down years. But remember, one of those 19 down years, and a couple of them, it's gone down by 20, 30, 40%. And if you're not in a position where you can swallow that and continue to build up your portfolio, perhaps it's best for you to have your money elsewhere. So that would make it an effort or cause that you might want to divert your money from an index fund. So overall, 2023 is a great year in the market. You need to make sure if you're investing, if you have any questions on how to do that or how you should best go about it based on your individual circumstances there and what your income is and what your debt is and what your liabilities are, feel free to reach out to me at Clarity and I can do a overall assessment for you and see what would be best for you. Please don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. We're really trying to get this channel to grow, and we really want to help improve people's individual finances so that they are in a position and that you are in a position that when you're considering to retire, your financial state isn't the biggest question mark in making that be a possibility. And the best time to start is today if you haven't already. So feel free to reach out to me. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe before you leave this channel. It is greatly appreciated and it will help the channel grow. Remember, we are trying to help encourage not just yourself improve financially, but those around you. If we are in a position in which we can improve our own financial health, great. But we want to also encourage our kids to distill great financial habits. We want our parents to have great financial habits. That will be like a tide that will help raise all ships. So please share this to those whom you care about, as it will help improve not only their quality of life, but hopefully then your futures and your kids and their grandkids, if they can help distill these good financial habits. Okay, so thank you. Please don't forget, again, like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, ciao.